Desert sunrise, 6:21, rising just like fate. Baby, you know this is never the end if you trust the world.
Jessica Ferndiger, BMW G650GS.
Greg Stone, BMW F700GS.
Keith Pekorski, BMW F650 Dakar.
We're setting off from New Orleans, planning on full days of riding and visiting as many highlights as we can along the way. On day 4, Jess will break off towards home for her first solo trip. Meanwhile, Keith and I will spend the next few days jumping between dirt trails and mountain twisties. Then Keith will continue on to DC for a few days holiday with his girlfriend, Sarah, while I savor the mountain roads on the way home. Finally, things will wrap up when Keith drops Sarah at the airport and rides for home. In our last episode, Keith and I spent the night camping wild in the woods, and the next morning slogging back up and down Doe Mountain. Jess visited the Battleship Alabama and then headed home. Then Keith and I dual sported through scenic mountain passes and forested roads. At Roanoke we parted ways, and now we follow my trip home. After separating outside Roanoke, Keith turns off his riding camera and we lose track of him completely. I spend the afternoon on the Blue Ridge Parkway, enjoying the smooth, weaving tarmac and one beautiful viewpoint after another. The next day begins with meandering stretches of Blue Ridge tarmac, punctuated by breathtaking mountain scenes. This guy pulled in. His modular helmet broke on him about 20 miles back. I said, "That's bad luck." He says, "Yeah, everything that I touch turns to shit." So I told him to stay the hell away from my bike. And he did. Despite the pristine tarmac, I'm soon lured into a series of detours by the enticing spurs and green lanes that crisscross the parkway. After lunch, I make my first tourism stop. The Blowing Rock is this 4,000-foot crag or cliff that's overhanging Johns River Gorge, which is about 3,000 feet below. And the way the wind goes from the gorge up into this cliff, it makes this upward draft that apparently when it's snowing, it actually looks like the snow is going up instead of down. So I'm in Little Switzerland, and the reason I've come here is not just because it sounds like a cool name, but Jess's parents are Swiss, which makes her Swiss and Canadian, and she loves a certain type of Swiss sausage, so I thought I might find it at the general store. I arrived too late and the general store is closed, but the day ends on a high note at a lovely forested campsite. I got started early this morning to do a small trail run down to Crabtree Falls. After the run to the falls, the day starts off peacefully. But I'm given a sudden jolt when I catch sight of a black bear on the parkway. Another morning on the Blue Ridge Parkway doesn't fail to impress. As I ascend, I hit unexpected fog, but just as quickly it burns off, and before I know it, I've arrived at Asheville for a coffee and a visit to Eurosport Asheville. From Asheville, it's not a long ride into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where I make a visit to Cades Cove. Cades Cove is a wide valley amidst the mountains where you frequently see a variety of wildlife, including bears, coyotes, deer, and wild turkeys. The loop is about 18 kilometers of mostly smooth tarmac, but it does bottleneck in places. Fortunately, there are numerous perks to traveling by motorbike. So behind me here is an old Methodist church, and what I think is really cool about it, it's being held up by blocks. Halfway through, I break for a snack and wedding photos. Rather than go out the way I came on Laurel Creek Road, I take Parson Branch Road, which is a lot more fun, void of traffic, filled with small rivulets, and empties into the middle of the tail of the dragon.
I've been here going on 10 minutes, adjusting my handlebars back to normal riding position. Strangest thing is that I have not seen a single motorcycle pass.
After Pearson Branch Road, another amazing day ends with Tail of the Dragon and twisty Highway 28 past Fontana Dam. Of course, everyone is allowed their own opinion, but an on, then off, then on tarmac again day like this is why I think dual sport riding is the best. The final day of my trip starts out early and begins with the Cherohala Skyway. It's about 85 kilometers of high-speed meandering through the Great Smoky Mountains and the Cherokee and Nantahala National Forests on pristine tarmac that climbs to 1,600 meters at Santitla Overlook. After Tellico Plains, I ride southwest through Tennessee until I make an impromptu stop.
I just had my first and hopefully only run-in with the police. It wasn't for any reason that you'd expect. I had actually pulled over here to use the restroom out in the bush. In part I just couldn't wait, but in part I could, and you know, actually just doing it out here in the middle of nowhere can be nicer than in some gas station bathroom with people queued outside. The local sheriff saw my bike with me not around and didn't know what was going on. So he took a very kind of suspicious, accusatory tone, and he poked his head back there and said, "I see ya." And I said, "I'm using the bathroom. Can you give me a minute?" It took me a few minutes to finish up. I mean, I wasn't going to be too rushed about it, right? Because it was a good one. He said, "This isn't a bathroom." I wasn't in anyone's lawn. I'm on a margin here. Do you mind if I wash my hands? I think you've been in that situation as well.
I mean, at least you wasn't visible from the road.
I tried to conceal as best as possible.
All right, man.
All right, thank you, officer. I apologize for the inconvenience. And he didn't really have anything to get me on. He just, I think, was expecting that I was doing drugs or something. I don't know. But so he didn't have a particularly good retreat.
From here on, it's high-speed highway riding, with the exception of a final tourism stop that is also opportunity for a picnic.
This is Confederate Memorial Park in Marbury, Alabama. It's a tribute to the Confederate soldiers in the American Civil War. A nice, shady, relaxing place to have a late lunch, as it's now about 4 o'clock. The question is whether or not I am going to make New Orleans before the end of the day, and by day I mean in the strictest sense of by midnight tonight.
Baby, you know this is never the end if you trust the world. All I can do is smile as you soften your eyes and draw curves with your questions till there's nothing left to say.